As mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, when dealing with learners with low digital skills, and in particular those with barriers, one of the things we've learned is that just as important as having good material for delivering digital skills is having the right approach. If you have the materials, but not the right approach, you could actually reinforce some of the negative characteristics and barriers mentioned earlier that learners experience, such as frustration and anxiety, low confidence, and fear of failure. The earlier section on barriers to learning pointed out how some learners have no or limited access to equipment and Wi-Fi. One solution is programs in the community that help connect learners to free or low-cost devices, or provide access to cheaper Wi-Fi. If a learner qualifies for such a program, and depending on staff capacity and learner interest, settlement or other support can help learners apply to such programs. However, not all learners qualify for such programs, so lack of access to equipment and Wi-Fi remains a barrier for many. It's important to know if a learner has to share a device with other family members and, as a result, may lack access in order to practice skills. As coach, you may need to adjust your lesson plan, pivot, and instead of moving on, review previously taught skills. Lack of time or space to concentrate are other barriers to learning that were mentioned earlier. If you can, attempt to troubleshoot this with the learner. For one-on-one coaching, try to find a better time for sessions if the current schedule doesn't work because, for example, their child always wakes up from a nap during the coaching session. Or ask if another person could care for the child during sessions. For a learner in a small group, if the group session time consistently doesn't work, consider if one-on-one coaching is an option and maybe a better way of learning for that individual. It is crucial to create an environment of trust and a safe space for learning. The first few sessions should focus on doing this more than on teaching digital skills. For those coaches who are teachers or are used to facilitating groups, you know how to build rapport with the learner. There are ways to create a safe space for coaching digital literacy skills, and some of these may differ from what you have done in the past. Call on learners by first name and get to know at least a few things about each learner. If coaching a small group, ensure that dominant learners with more digital skills don't take over and show off their digital skills, which can intimidate others. Ensure that all learners feel seen and heard. This means managing the group dynamic so there is equal space for each person to participate and language is respectful. For example, the coach may need to ask some learners to wait to speak. Teach them to raise their hands, whether during an in-person session or a remote session in Zoom or MS Teams. Another aspect of creating a safe space is assuring learners that it's totally okay to make mistakes and also to not know how to do something in the digital environment. You can convey that making mistakes and not knowing are okay by deliberate modeling and voicing your thought process out loud. Seeing that the coach doesn't know everything and makes mistakes at times and is okay with that is more powerful than just telling learners it is okay to make mistakes. What is meant by deliberate modeling and voicing thought processes? For example, while demonstrating a digital task, you might vocalize, "I forget. How do I go back? Do I click here? No. Oh yeah, I can click here on the back button. I can always click on the back button to go back. I forget how to reply to an email. Where's the reply all button? It's not here. I just see reply." There are 3 dots. I know that means it's a menu with more options inside. Maybe Reply All is in there. I'll click on it and see. How to scroll. Okay. Let's see. I click and hold the mouse button down. Then I drag the mouse. Then let go. Oops, I don't want to do that. Well, it's okay. I can change that. Talking through the process of a digital task calmly shows that forgetting how to do skills and making mistakes happen to everyone, while also modeling how to recover without getting stressed. Coaches can reassure learners that it is normal and expected for everyone to take time to learn and retain digital skills. None of us learn digital skills in one day. We learn them over time. Normalizing the gradual learning process allows learners to relax. It also accommodates learners with other competing stress in their lives and the impacts of that, as mentioned in the earlier section on barriers to learning. Set a very slow pace for the learning session. A slow pace allows those who learn more slowly to have the time they need. Remember that the slow pace will likely feel boring to the trainer far earlier than to the learners. If it seems too slow to the coach, it's likely a good pace for the learner. For example, when the digital literacy curriculum resource was piloted in 2019, one class of literacy level learners took 10 hours to complete the first module of mouse and navigation, and likely would have spent longer if there was time. This was much longer than was suggested for the module, and more than other groups of learners needed, but not unreasonable given those learners' challenges. As a coach looking at a lesson in the digital literacy curriculum resource, you may think it's going to take a long time to complete. You may look at the detail in the lesson and be tempted to skip through parts. But it's important to realize that the lesson needs to take that time. If you speed up, learners will likely get frustrated. Moreover, when learners come back for the next coaching session, you will see some have forgotten the skills. This may be because some learners don't have time to practice, or others get frustrated and don't practice. Or it may be due to memory impairments as a result of aging, as in the case of some seniors, or due to trauma for some refugee learners, as mentioned earlier. More repetition is needed. Whatever the reason, you need to expect that those parts of earlier lessons need to be reviewed or repeated. As the coach, you need to remind yourself that you are working on a process, on helping the learner acquire skills, not on conveying information. That, of course, means the learning will be slow. Learning skills is slower than learning information. The learners also need to be reminded, be patient with yourself. Learning something well takes time. Many learners are not aware of that. They think they can learn in an unrealistically short time and may get discouraged when they can't. Use simple, direct language. Simple structures and vocabulary aid understanding. This does not mean using broken, incorrect, or childish language. It means choosing words and phrases that are more concrete than abstract, as well as shorter sentences. Not using techno-jargon and too many technical terms is important. This helps understanding and reduces learner fear of technology. Keep the wording in descriptions, explanations, and instructions simple yet accurate. Ensure that any resources with writing that you use have plain language and minimal text. This supports all learners, not just those with reading challenges. This is good practice at any time, but particularly when introducing the new language that goes with digital literacy. If you are using the lessons in the ISS of BC Digital Literacy Curriculum resource, guidance is given on using simple, direct language to orally explain the digital environment and digital tasks. Following this guidance carefully will help develop your own skill to simplify concepts and directions quickly when teaching digital skills. It can be difficult for trainers or coaches with solid digital skills to remember a time and how it felt to have their own skills at a beginning level, like the learners being coached. For example, you may get excited about sharing what you know about Zoom and start to show learners all the features at once: how to turn on and off the video and mic, how to use chat, how to add a background filter, how to share their screen, etc. Or, depending on your own process of learning, you might feel it would be faster and easier for the learners to learn technology shortcuts. Or you might feel it is important or interesting for the learners to learn some background or additional knowledge about the technology. Keep in mind that the goal is to build digital skills. The lessons in the ISS of BC Digital Literacy Curriculum resource are designed for that purpose. You will see that the lessons include just enough detail and no more. Too much information, extra information, or even shortcuts can be overwhelming and confusing as learners try to remember everything. When learners are overwhelmed, the skills will not be retained. Trying to cover too much material in one session will be frustrating and overwhelming to the learner. This will set back their learning as they now have even more stress related to technology. Instead, plan coaching sessions with smaller objectives and use any leftover time in a session for review and additional practice. Instead of trying to rush and get through the lesson plan as written in one session, give the learner the time they need to learn and practice each skill. Rather than being bored, beginner learners are often very happy and even relieved to do extra practice and demonstrate their success at learning new skills. Some learners can get sidetracked easily and ask for extraneous information not necessary to learning and practicing a particular skill at that time. Others may want you to show them how to do a very specific thing related to this session topic, or ask you about vocabulary unrelated to what you are focused on. Don't get sidetracked from the digital skills you are building. Stay focused on the lesson and keep the learners focused on it to ensure objectives are met. Accessibility is around being flexible, doing things in more than one way. For example, although watching a video for information can be more accessible for those with reading challenges and may be more enjoyable for some, it may not be the best strategy for everyone. For most learners, demonstrating the skills slowly, step by step, works well. Many also benefit from following an illustrated instruction page with screenshots for each step. Demonstrate skills in different ways depending on whether the learner is more an auditory learner, a visual learner, or does best with hands-on kinesthetic learning. If a learner gains skills best by using visuals, use the handouts in the lessons and go through them step by step. But if the learner prefers hands-on learning, ensure to move quickly from teaching and demonstration to allow the learner to try the skills for themselves. Digital skills need to be practical, useful, and relevant to the learner. Learners who see the relevance of what they are learning will be more motivated to learn and practice regularly. Some individuals may have learned to become dependent on another family member, a spouse, or child to perform digital tasks for them. To engage these learners, Find out what kind of digital challenges they have in their daily lives, and then determine what specific skills they need to learn in order to overcome those challenges. Show learners how mastering basic digital skills can have a positive impact on their daily lives, and use concrete examples of how they will benefit. Be direct. Point out the relevance and the usefulness to the learner of each digital skill they will learn before they start. For example, you can say, you want to get a job. Knowing how to go to a website and find information will help you look for a job on another website, like Indeed, or on a company website, and to do that more independently. To further build motivation, try to tailor the content to the individual's more immediate needs. Learners will be more motivated to learn email skills, for example, if they understand that it will help them apply for a job or stay connected to friends and family. Someone who wants to join a social program that meets on Zoom every Tuesday will be motivated to learn Zoom skills. Of course, learners may need to learn more fundamental digital skills in the curriculum first, depending on the current skills of each learner. But if they know those fundamental skills are connected directly to their broader goals, they will have more reason to master them. Finally, if you know your learners' interests as well as needs, you can use those as a hook to teach digital skills. Perhaps employment is not the learner's goal, and social or recreational needs are more important. Does the learner love hockey? Then adapt the lesson to teach online navigation skills using the NHL website instead of an employment-related site. In general, learners who are excited about accessing content they enjoy will be more engaged and motivated to continue learning, including practicing on their own. We all know when we're coaching someone that the learner needs encouragement. This is even more essential when the personal barriers facing a learner are greater. During each session, point out to the learner what they have learned to do better, what they can now do that they struggled to do before, even if these are small, discrete skills. For example, being able to double-click with the mouse instead of just single-clicking. While there may still be many digital skills to master, the seemingly small gains are in fact big strides for the learner. Part of your goal as coach is to make them aware of the skills they have gained. This can really bolster learner confidence and increase motivation.